interesting comment, and it's 5 a.m. in the morning, I believe here, or 6 a.m. in the morning, and it starts to get cold, warmer at around 9 a.m. So I'm gonna do this, but I wanted to do a live stream right now, and I received several comments, and one of them was under a teal swan video, and here it says, "Did you ever meet teal swan? You're Sam." No, that's not the one. Wait, there's another one. Give me a second. Here. Amazing how many people dump on the same women just for clickbait. If you need a shirt, I'll send you one. You are rambling and close to incoherent with your word salad, which smacks of sound bites you've stitched together. Sounds mostly like projection, to be honest. Tantric masseuse sounds like a spiritual molester. Who are you actually talking to? So you are seeing massive toxic metaframing here. For example, tantric masseuse sounds like a spiritual molester. Um, that's a massive toxic metaframe right there. And I I want you to really caution because obviously that person is interested in Teal Swan, and uh, that shows you how much problematic people are attracted to the realm of spirituality. And I say I'd rather have a like as a girlfriend, for example, I would prefer to have a non-spiritual girl instead of have a spiritual girl that hasn't had the full awakening yet, because she will for sure, and I had this already once, she will for sure at some point think that she's further ahead on the spiritual path than you are. And like my ex, until she once said, I think I'm further ahead than you on the spiritual path, but she didn't even have a spiritual awakening. One day I asked her, can we spend a whole day being in silence? And at the end of the day, I was like, I was in such a good mood. And I asked her, how was your day? Because we spent the whole day in silence. She was like, this was the worst. And she was super serious. This was the worst day of my life. And that's the moment I understood. If I want to be with someone, it must be a fully awakened being. That was super clear at that point. And so you get tons and tons and tons of people who are listening to Teal Swan or who are fanboys or fangirls of her. But Teal Swan doesn't teach non duality, so she doesn't teach the highest truth in spiritual awakening because she's not herself spiritually awakened. So that attracts a lot of like problematic and normal people to her teachings, and people pick up this stuff without having the fine tuning to see below these things. And toxic metaframing is literally the putting someone else down directly from one person to the next, and then really going hardcore, sometimes even like when somebody says, somebody that doesn't know me and I don't know them, and they say in my comments, they said, tantric masseuse sounds like spiritual molester. Think about this. Like, imagine you are, I mean, everybody that has a little bit of sensibility understands this is massively toxic. Imagine I meet someone on the street or, somewhere, and we talk for a while, and I say, yeah, I'm a tantra masseur. And then that person says, tantric masseuse sounds like a spiritual molester. If you sit down with that person still, or if you spend time with them still, you cannot speak of self love. You are actually a victim of your own incapacity to walk away. And this is the beauty about spiritual awakening is you're never afraid to be alone. You're never afraid to to take the consequences, no matter what the relationship is like, whether you just met the person or whether you're in a deep relationship with them. If they are toxic metaframers, you stand up and you walk away and you never come back, and your life is going to be so much better. And there are people in relationships, like I say, 80% of people do this. They sometimes, because there's direct, indirect, verbal, non-verbal toxic metaframes. And by the way, in my free book, Gold Pill, you will find the chapter in toxic metaframes. It's in the download description. It's in the description for downloading. So I have it like in 10 languages, so you can download. And there's a chapter on toxic metaframing. Um, I need to extend the chapters, but the basics are explained. So a lot of people in relationships do these kind of things, yeah, and people accept them. They feel bad, but they're like, oh, but my heart chakra is connected with them or something. That's the great thing. You can move. Nothing happens to beingness. Beingness is always the same. That means it's super easy to go away from someone and just accept that there is a short period of dissatisfaction because you're maybe single now, etc. You have to take care of your own shit and stuff. But you will be so much better off. The vibration that you now can pick because you practice self harmony. You practice self love through deciding for harmony. You will be so much better off. And people are extremely afraid to be alone, and that makes them stick in situations much longer. And usually, like for example, I have a lot of different channels in different languages, and I'm focusing a lot on the English channel now. But I also have a German channel, which is about 4 times the size, and uh, I have the comments purposefully off on the German channel, and I tell you why. There's something super interesting. Like you have certain cultures which have an open sacral chakra. Let's take Spain, for example. Spain has a pretty open sacral chakra in the sense like culturally given. So people express their sacral chakra in Spain. The joy, sexuality, all of this stuff. And it goes a lot for these. It's not in every Latin country, but a lot. So, but the Germanic culture or the Germany specifically, they repress their sacral chakra a lot. Also, a lot of Anglo-Saxon countries are a little bit the same. They suppress their sacral chakra. It also has something to do historically with Christianity and so forth. And you're not supposed to talk about these things and all of these things. And so as they suppress, culturally speaking, if they suppress their sacral chakra, it finds its perversions or it gets suppressed and creates anger. And what happens is that if you are a very happy person that is expressing that energy and you are putting out videos, then you get attacked on. If you have a German channel and you're expressing that joy sexuality combination, then you're going to be attacked like crazy. You're going to receive one toxic metaframe after the other. And that kind of perspective not a lot of people have. But uh if you work in several languages and you have several, online presences in several languages, and you have sensitivity, you feel those cultural differences. You can literally feel them very strong. And doing it, in 6 7 languages, I can literally feel how people are. For example, the nicest people so far have been the Spanish speaking people, have been the I'm 45. Well, I don't have an age, but but the body is 45. The Japanese are super nice in the comments. I've never had bad comment from the Japanese. The Russians are super nice. The worst are the Germans. They toxic metaframe tremendously. The Anglo-Saxons, the UK's not the people from UK not so much. It's more like the from India. There's also a lot of toxic metaframing also often, but on the opposite, you also have very nice people there. Uh, and a lot of, and usually the toxic metaframers are usually the men. Why is that? Because they have much more sexual energy in the sacral chakra than women do, in a sense like the cyclical kind of thing. So a man gets from one day to the next can get super frustrated if their joy and sexuality is not expressed. For the woman, it goes more like smooth, and then when around ovulation, she will have more energy. But it's not the same. It's not like that aggression kind of energy. The woman cannot have aggression. You know why she can't have aggression? Because, or most women don't have, because aggression is toxic for the body. And men, interesting, they don't live as long as women, right? You know this. I don't want to go too off in a tangent too much, but it's because men have more aggressive energy within themselves, and that aggressive energy turns against their own bodies at points in their time. That's what makes them die much sooner, because they also, mm, uh, the way this energy is being used is usually toxic in some form to their own bodies. Whereas women, if they have high energy, it's mostly to support the body. There's a big difference. And uh but that's for another time. We could talk about that. Why women live longer than men. It's super interesting. Um so I'm doing this video because I received this comment on a teal swan video here, and I'm gonna read it again so you understand. I'm gonna dissect it so you understand toxic metaframing. Toxic metaframing is a term I coined, and it shows you exactly right from the start that someone is toxic. And sometimes I want to tell this about toxic metaframers. It's super interesting. Sometimes when a toxic metaframer comments and they put out a paragraph or two paragraphs, then it usually starts with, a sensible idea. I can already feel it right from the start when it's toxic metaframing, but if you don't know it, if you are not experienced in it, you will not recognize it because it goes like it slowly ramps up. So first they'll be like, well, I was listening to your video, and yeah, and I don't completely agree, blah blah blah. And then they give out maybe some credential, and they say like, oh, this is like this, I get that, and then it continues, and it starts to ramp up, and at the very bottom, like last sentence, last two sentences, three sentences will be a toxic metaframe, and then we'll be like, by the way, you're probably a spiritual molester because you're a tantric masseuse or something. And I can feel it in the first sentence, but I see how people, and I think this is the worst form of toxic metaframe, a toxic person, and this is why a lot of women end up with toxic men. I mean, women are toxic the same, but is when they hide their toxicity become because they have become an expert narcissist. So, an expert narcissist is someone you cannot win against. If you're highly sensitive, if you're spiritual, if you're this, that, blah, 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 you cannot win against a very well trained narcissist. A very well trained narcissist is someone who will package their toxic metaframes in ways that you don't immediately run away, and you will feel that you're actually receiving attention and love, but in reality they are just manipulating you and for their toxic metaframing purposes. And that is the worst person to get into. And they'll be nice in the beginning and shit, and then it just starts ramping up. And the only solution is either, like I said, for toxic metaframers, only have three solutions. Either you leave physically, which is the best solution. The second is you reflect it back to them, which is, hey, you're a toxic metaframe. You're doing this and that. And if they are an expert narcissist, they'll turn it back around to you. Well, don't be so sensitive. For example, that's a classic. Don't be so sensitive. And and then the gaslighting starts. Gaslighting is a tool of the narcissist, of the toxic metaframer, by the way. I should make a video about this. And the third is over toxic metaframing, which is usually the mutually agreed upon toxic, relationship in general. So it's like the people that fight and then have make-up sex, and they have, horrible ahoy Tomasz, and they have horrible opinions. They one says to the other, for example, you suck, well, you suck more, and then they have sex and the relationship continues. It's also not good. So yeah, and I'll talk about gaslighting in another video.